It's working now.
All right.
I did it over.
Hello, hello.
Okay. Hello, world. So, uh, yes, last week we got the connector and the messenger. Um, Funny story, Ty, that I shared with Mika on our earlier call. I love little baby animals, and there's like little baby bunnies in the neighborhood. They're coming out and exploring. And I told John, I want a baby bunny, I want a baby raccoon, because I had seen some video about a baby raccoon that somebody rescued out of the creek. And I want a baby possum. And not 2 days later, what is on the sidewalk but a little baby abandoned possum? Now, people think they're ugly, but they are America's koala because they're the only North American marsupial. They grow their babies in a pouch. And John was like, "You're not bringing that home." And I was like, the ancestors delivered what I asked for. How could I not bring it home?" So, anyhow, the ancestors are looking over us constantly. And I just wanted to share that little bit of magic. Penelope has been repatriated to my backyard and is living happily with the bunnies and crows in my backyard. So
Excellent.
hopefully not to be lunch for the barn owl who also lives in my backyard. The powers. Let's see what we got this week. Anything about the connector and the messenger last week that you noticed while I'm shuffling here?
Uh, yeah. So I think for me, one thing I did that stood out this time was, so my birthday, when I had family and friends gathered, I felt inclined to just share what I shared I think 2 calls ago, on just
Mm-hmm.
making sure and being conscious of the energy you're receiving from. So I shared that, and it was nice to share. And looking at the cards we pulled on Monday, which is the messenger and the connector, like I
Mm-hmm.
could relate to it when you brought those 2 cards out again. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep. You were doing all of those when you had everybody
Yeah,
celebrating you.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was.
Like that. I that was prominent throughout the week for me, both of those things, and they went hand in hand together.
Mm-hmm.
I think because much of our work too last week, with it being a short week too, was focused on some of the communications and processes we were putting in place to, uplift and amplify our upcoming retreat event in September. Um, just continuing to be conscious about how we're communicating and what we're communicating, and also not outwardly too, but how we do that like internally, and then that just kind of naturally spilled over into my personal spaces as well. So I found myself communicating more in the last handful of days, or throughout last week and into the weekend, than I had previously, and it felt like I had more mental and energetic spaciousness to do that and to be the initiator
Hmm.
of it too, and not just passively like waiting for someone else to reach out or whatnot.
Oh,
Not that
you were initiating contacts to folks,
yeah,
like touching base with folks and stuff.
yeah, it felt like I
Hmm.
had more again mental and energetic spaciousness to do that, and likely it came by way of the benefit of having the holiday, and then
Mm-hmm.
the next Friday off, so a really extended weekend, if you will. And it just felt yeah, it felt like a great time to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How about
Yeah.
you?
I feel like there's a general movement towards people reconnecting. Like, even though COVID was 4 years ago, which feels wild to me,
Yeah,
like people are still coming out of that
yeah.
space of isolation and yeah, like kind of yeah, isolation.
Looking for
So
new
so it
community.
Yeah, I don't know if, I mean, I always get sort of like more energized and plugged in during the summer, but it feels like there's like a worldwide thing, a community-wide thing happening too, of
Mm-hmm.
people reaching out and connect. But there's also like these threads of like political uncertainty all over the world that feels very much like it's happening in parallel and has me a little bit nervous, but also seeing like tremendous opportunity to like, you know, connect people around what gives us joy, how we care for one another, how we create the worlds around us that are a reflection of the best of us, you know, like our truest heartfelt values and connection to, you know, spirit and each other and care and all these things. Anyhow, a lot. There's just a lot going on. Mm-hmm.
The in between, the bridges, the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what they have to say about that. The Advocate.
Oh, interesting. Share with us. What does it say?
I align with the greater good for all. Humanitarian, resourceful, integrous, idealistic, resilient, outspoken, opinionated, rebellious, a champion, supportive, compassionate, democratic, passionate, driven, devoted. How weird that I was like, it just kind of last minute, I was thinking about the news of the political upheaval in the world and was inspired to say something about it. And then that would come up. It feels
I can't
kind of spot on, right?
A time recently where the Advocate was pulled for us. Yeah.
And it's page 73, which is my ages ago birth year. So just because you see messages everywhere doesn't mean that they're not. Okay. The mantra. I align with the greater good for all. Our sole desire is to support and promote enduring positive social change. Our purpose is to be aligned with the divine and present to the needs of the many in order to champion social change that uplifts humanity.
Yeah.
The shadow is self-serving behavior. Bless you, Bubba. Ignorance and over-responsibility. As advocates, we are on a mission to close the gap between the real needs of the everyday people in our field of expertise and the divine ideal for them. Weren't you just talking about this a gap? You use those literal words.
Yeah.
Because
everything we're talking about isn't a happen when it happens. Like that's the glue, like literally what exists or can exist in between to help us navigate those bigger crescendos or peaks and valleys, you know, kind of thing. So like the consistency there in the in-betweens is what I guess maybe what I'm trying to say, like where our resilience is forged, you know? Yeah.
And the more I think about the work that we do, the way we show up as human beings, I keep thinking like if we really want like a just and healthy planet, how are we doing that in our everyday, you know, like being just and healthy individuals in our families, in our neighborhoods, and our like we can create the world that we want under our own roof.
Oh yeah. And right outside our front door, we talk about community. Like I want to be a part of a community that's XYZ, right? Well, to be a part of that,
know your neighbors.
well, and also, do you embody XYZ too, so that when you leave your or even when you're interacting, like you said, with folks underneath your own roof, right, or your own living space, that you are a representative of that, like you're that in active practice, you know. And listen, I will be the first to say I don't always hit that mark at all, you know. I may be more XYZ when I leave my front door than I am inside, you know. And that's real. So it's a reminder for me to not only consistency, but consciously be consistent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you folks?
What are you thinking, Ty?
Um, for me, I'm just looking at my recent behavior because I started to reflect when I journal.
Mm-hmm.
And something I noticed that tilted was I'm now more conscious on just being a positive person and always just having a positive mindset. Like, regardless of where you find yourself, regardless of who I'm interacting with, I just like to always remain positive. And that means no fear, being true to yourself, and just being as open and honest as possible. So recently, I then found myself advocating positivity and just help my friends or whoever I come in contact with. I just tell if I notice they're feeling down, I try to let them know that it's only going on in their mind, and it's truly
Mm-hmm.
up to just stay positive, remain positive, and just remind yourself that you are a vessel and you're truly receiving from only the positive source. If it's negative, if it makes you feel bad, if it makes you depressed, consciously do not think about it and stay
Mm-hmm.
positive. So yeah, that's been it. It's sometimes hard to communicate to people, so I'm also refining ways that I can maybe just lead by example or just show that, look, it's really up to you to be on top of this. Like, you shouldn't allow
Mm-hmm.
that matter in the physical world to bring you down. It's really up to you to
Mm-hmm.
over it. So yeah, I'll keep on thinking of creative ways to advocate for positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what pulling this card tells me to do. And
Mm-hmm.
wherever I find myself, whoever I interact with, there's only one source. Stay positive.
Yeah. I I recently saw a video somewhere about our your soul knows, you know, what is good for you and what's positive, and it feels like you just have to start, you know, embodying or recognizing what that feels like. And
Mm,
what she said was, you know, that feeling that you have when you have a crush on somebody, you know, and you see them and like you feel, ooh, just like
yeah.
that. You can have that about ideas,
Mm,
and, you know, in a non-romantic way, other people or whatever. Like, if that's the feeling that you get, if you have a crush on that idea, that means yes. You know. And so if you're ever in like a decision making kind of paralyzed space of like, you know, what do I do, this way or that way or whatever, just think, do I have a crush on this idea? If I don't have a crush on it, it's a no. You know. And I was like, oh, that was an interesting way to think about it, you know.
yeah, and that's really good because I remember that feeling because I mean, well, even though I just turned a year old, I'm still relatively young. And I remember that feeling so closely, and that's truly
Hmm.
how I would describe it. Like, your soul just knows if it's a positive and vibrant and if it's a good idea. It knows, and
Hmm.
you just saying bringing the crush feeling. Yes,
Right.
I could connect the dots, and I was like, yeah, that's how it felt.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's interesting when we're talking about like advocating for self or for others too, like in support of
Hmm.
others as well. Because something I saw recently really seeded my consciousness, and I'm just paraphrasing. Someone had called with some devastating news to share, you know, sharing some devastating news they just received. And the first question out of this person's mouth was, do you need a distraction, or do you need me to like just meet you where you're at and like join,
Hmm.
you know, kind of thing.
Mm.
And so like advocacy to me in that way too is trying to discern or allowing folks, inviting folks and creating the space for them to communicate like maybe
What
what
their
they think.
needs are.
Yeah, exactly. Then
Hmm.
and a reminder that for in most ways it's whatever you're experiencing, it is temporary, you know. And sometimes the meeting oftentimes meeting them where they're at can help transition them to the more silver lining state. You know what I mean? Seeing
Mm-hmm.
the way to a positive or something that it can to be highlighted or celebrated or whatnot, you know?
Yeah.
Because I often sometimes can't find myself immediately there. Like I have to
Mm-hmm.
marinate a little bit in whatever I'm feeling in the moment to be able to have the gratitude, the joyousness, the light, you know, the lightness, Ty, like you're talking about, right? Like the positivity of it all, because either I win, so to speak, quote unquote, or I learn, kind of thing, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
never lose, right? Like there's an opportunity for anything there. And one of the things I am you know, on a journey to be more cognizant of and in touch with are my emotions and feelings, and like recognizing to be able to discern them too. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So advocacy in that way, and in the some of the attributes, you know, the characteristics that you shared with us, you know, of the advocate
Mm-hmm.
feels aligned in that way,
Yep.
I guess. So anyway, yeah.
Yes. I'm
Advocating for
loving it.
yourself, advocating for others, advocating
Yeah, sometimes, yeah,
yeah,
advocating for other people is just helping them know that they have choices,
for sure.
and allowing them
Sure.
to see that, yeah, it's
Yeah,
temporary, you have choices. How can I meet you where you need, where, you know, where the path that you want to go? And, you know, then sometimes people will make choices that we don't have crushes on, you know, and they can
for
take that
sure.
journey.
For
They can
sure.
take that journey. That's
Yeah,
their own thing, and we don't have to necessarily follow that. If,
totally.
you
Even
know,
self. You
yep,
can break up with those choices that that don't give you warm and fuzzies. You know what I mean? Thank you and no thank you. So,
yes, I
oh well,
align with the greater good for all.
want to share one thing before we roll off with everyone that we just got another person confirmed to join us for our retreat in September. So
Yes,
maybe advocate for your wellness and yourself and come join us. Check out our website.
absolutely.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful day,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.